Shifting focus now, it was exactly 25 years ago that Vladimir Putin was first elected as Russia's president. A rise to power that was quick and unexpected. And just months after entering politics, he outperformed established leaders who had spent years building their reputations. And today, as he finishes 25 years in power, let's reflect on why Putin gained such strong support from the Russian people and how he revived Russia. And that's following the Soviet Union's collapse. Now, in 25 years that he has been at the helm of affairs in Russia, Putin has outlasted several Western leaders. He has become Russia's third longest serving leader. That's after Tsar Nicholas I and Joseph Stalin. Putin has perhaps come a very long way from being a little-known KGB officer. In the lead-up to Russia's 2000 presidential election, 33 contestants submitted their documents. But after the signature collection procedure, only 11 remained. Among them were communist leader Gennady Zyuganov, nationalist Vladimir Zhirinovsky, reformist Grigory Valentsevsky, and the acting president Vladimir Putin. From the start, Putin was the clear front-runner. His popularity had skyrocketed since August 1999, when Boris Yeltsin appointed him as the prime minister. His firm response to militant attacks in Dagestan had strengthened his image as a decisive leader in Russia. And by November, his approval rating had jumped from 21% to 42%. At the time, Russia was struggling. The country was still recovering from the 1998 financial crisis. Inflation was high, unemployment had reached 13%, and 1 in 3 Russians lived below the poverty line. Plus, the war in Chechnya raged on. Despite all these challenges, Putin refused to declare a state of emergency, insisting there was no need for it. On December 31st, 1999, Yeltsin made a surprise announcement. He was resigning, and Putin would take over as the acting president. Within hours, Putin called an emergency cabinet meeting, reassuring the nation that there would be no power vacuum. And by early morning, he was in Chechnya, meeting soldiers, awarding medals and seeking advice. Unlike other contestants, Putin avoided grand election promises and TV debates. He had said, and I'm quoting here, "Modern election tactics are shameless." He said, "I will not make promises I cannot keep." And he let his actions speak. For him, instead, on election night, the results were uncertain. Because at first, a second round seemed possible, but by 2:49 a.m., with over half the votes counted, it was clear Putin had won in the first round with 52.9% of the vote. For Putin, victory was not just political, it was about ensuring stability for Russia. The country was at a turning point, and he was now in charge of its future. During his early years, Putin strengthened state control by cracking down on oligarchs who had gained power under Yeltsin. Independent media outlets were taken over or shut down. Then, in 2004, he won the re-election. But by this time, opposition voices were already being silenced in Russia. As his second term neared its end, the Russian constitution barred him from running for a third term. But instead of stepping aside, Putin orchestrated a political maneuver that would allow him to retain control and power. On May 7, 2008, Dmitry Medvedev, Putin's hand-picked successor, was elected as the president. The very next day, Medvedev appointed Putin as the prime minister, ensuring that real power remained with him. And over the next 25 years, Putin has been accused of systematically dismantling Russia's political institutions, erasing opposition voices, and consolidating absolute control. Here's how he has maintained his power for the last 25 years. Putin eliminated independent power centers. If you're wondering how, by taking direct control of Russia's regions, governors were no longer elected. They were appointed by the Kremlin. That ensured complete loyalty to him. He also crushed dissent. Every major challenge to his rule was met with repression. Just take a look at the events in Russia when his rule was questioned. First, in 2011, mass demonstrations over election fraud took place in Moscow's Boltiana Square. In 2018, there was backlash against pension reforms. And of course, who could forget the nationwide demonstrations over late Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny's arrest? Then, in 2022, Russian troops entered Ukraine. Demonstrations broke out in Moscow and St. Petersburg. At each turn, Putin responded with arrests, censorship and violence. Critics were allegedly eliminated before they could even become real threats for Putin in Russia. And well, how has he managed to do that? That's through his shadow cabinet. Putin has surrounded himself with a tight circle of loyalists and business allies who have allegedly benefited from state contracts. Meanwhile, there has also been state propaganda that has made attempts to rewrite history, portraying Russia as a nation under constant Western threat, and further reinforcing Putin's image as the country's only defender against the West. Cut to today. On the 25th anniversary of his rule, Putin has agreed to a temporary ceasefire with Ukraine after 3 years of war. But this is not a loss. It's a diplomatic victory for Putin. By making the lifting of sanctions a condition for peace, Putin has strengthened his position while keeping control of the conflict. And the West knows it clearly. It's another calculated move in Putin's decades-long strategy. And it's clearly working. Well, after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a policy that recognizes only two genders, that's male or female, further erasing recognition of transgender and non-binary identities in U.S., the European nations are extremely worried. There is unease about Washington's policies towards sexual minorities. And now, multiple European countries have issued warnings, and that is to LGBTQ plus travelers planning to visit the US. Starting with the Netherlands, which has tightened its travel advisory, the Dutch Foreign Ministry has released a statement warning the LGBTQ plus community that other laws and customs now operate in the US. The advisory further informs travelers that a number of states that introduced local laws which may have negative consequences for LGBTQ plus people, such as access to health care. It's not just the Netherlands, other European countries are following suit as well. This includes Finland, Denmark, the United Kingdom and Germany. They all are now urging cautionary planning for transgender people when traveling to the US. The Danish travel advisory said on its website, and I'm quoting here, when applying for visa to the US, there are only two gender designations to choose from, male or female. Further alerting travelers that if you have the gender designation X in your passport or you have changed your gender, then it is recommended that you contact the US Embassy prior to travel for guidance on how to proceed. Similarly, the Belgian government announced that it is also working on adjusting the travel advice in light of stricter border controls and changing attitudes towards transgender people in the US. Well, the ripple effects of all of these advisories could potentially impact tourism and perhaps diplomatic ties between US and Europe. In other news, a network of mysterious companies linked to a secretive Chinese tech firm, they have been trying to recruit laid-off U.S. government employees. Well, according to a Reuters report, these companies appear to be part of a broader operation involving fake consulting and headhunting firms targeting former US federal employees and AI experts as well. The four firms, which share overlapping websites, server hosts and other digital connections, reportedly remain shrouded in secrecy. We don't know who they are. One of them advertised itself as a geopolitical risk consulting firm, but had its job ads and LinkedIn profile recently deleted. While another sought former US government workers for roles in research, technology and policy analysis, offering job opportunities through ads. Attempts to verify these companies, these firms, resulted in the discovery of disconnected phone numbers, fake addresses and deleted ads. So there's a big question mark on who actually they are. According to the report, the campaign mimicked strategies used in past by the Chinese intelligence operations that exploit the financial vulnerabilities of recently laid off US government workers who might unknowingly or knowingly share sensitive information. According to the report, a White House spokesperson said China is attempting to exploit America through espionage and coercion, and called on current and former US government employees to remain vigilant and safeguard sensitive information. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington meanwhile denied any involvement, stating that China respects data privacy and security. In the report, an FBI spokesperson warned that foreign intelligence agencies often disguise themselves as think tanks, universities or recruiters to target US government employees. While foreign recruitment scams are not new, experts say that they are escalating as more government workers face unemployment in the US. In fact, a report by CNN earlier this month claimed that China and Russia have directed their respective intelligence services to expedite recruiting US federal employees, especially those working in national security. Well, all these developments coincide by Trump administration's decision to conduct mass layoffs across US federal workforce. As investigations continue, questions remain about the extent of these recruitment efforts and the potential risks posed by this shadowy network. Shifting focus to the US now, a month back we told you about US President Donald Trump's elaborate plans to unveil a gold card or the golden visa scheme that offers permanent residency and optional citizenship of the United States of America for $5 million. Well, since then, these gold cards seems to have become a hit. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick claims as many as 1,000 gold cards have been sold in a single day, and their sales are only climbing, with more and more people lining up to get their hands on them. And in total contrast to the privileged status of potential gold card buyers, it stand the green card holders in the U.S., especially the immigrants, who are facing uncertain times. That's ever since U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance proclaimed that a green card does not give an individual an indefinite right to stay in the U.S. That's not all. According to a report by the Newsweek, the Trump administration has even paused some green card applications, further jeopardizing the American dream for thousands of people. In a podcast, Lutnick elaborated the benefits of availing this gold card that he says will help exempt global tax for outsiders who want to be in the U.S. Moreover, Gold Card offers the option to its buyers to choose not to become a citizen and yet hold the permit for residency in the U.S. So what else are the advantages of this Gold Card scheme? Well, it also seeks to replace the current EB-5 investor visa program that requires a minimum investment of $1.05 million and mandates the creation of at least 10 full-time U.S. jobs. In contrast, Trump's gold card only requires a direct $5 million payment to the US government with no requirement of job creation. So basically, the gold card will effectively offer green card rights minus the waiting period and even any need to create jobs. But who can really afford the gold visa scheme that is priced at a major cost of $5 million? That's $5 million per gold card. Billionaires, perhaps, or individuals with high net worth. Lutnick said that according to a research with the Trump administration, only 37 million people in the world have the means to buy the gold card. He added that Trump believes that 1 million cards can be sold and the funds can be used to reduce the US fiscal deficit on national debt. Sounds like Trump has made it very clear in his calculations. But the question is, how will this impact the immigrants? Or rather, will the $5 million gold card turn out to be a Trump card and help them fulfill their American dream? To live and work in America indefinitely, a promise no longer guaranteed by a green card. As the Trump administration temporarily pauses on select green card applications, it indicates that the procedure to get permanent residency has now become even more lengthy and cumbersome. Plus, it also increases their fears of being potentially deported, owing to Trump's hardline immigration policies. So for now, those looking to avoid the rather long, drawn-out procedure of booking a U.S. residency and have the millions of dollars to do it, the gold card could very well be their golden ticket to America. With only 2 weeks to go for the gold card program to be rolled out, we'll wait and have to see how that pans out for non-U.S. citizens.